things that have acronyms that I can't keep track of. And probably PMDD, PMS and all that stuff. So I have had panic disorder since I was 15 years old, potentially younger, because I remember having panic attacks in junior high school, but I concealed it from my peers because I was ashamed and I didn't want people to think that there was something wrong with me. And I remember I went to performing arts high school. I went to LaGuardia and I was a theater major. And ironically, I became a very good actress because I concealed what I was going through with my mental illness. And it actually took a toll on my physical health. I started to develop an ulcer and get really severe acid reflux because I was internalizing all these emotions. I did put it into my theater, but it wasn't enough because I was acting. I was pretending to be normal, right? Whatever that means, because obviously normal is bullshit. So when I fast forward to my adult life, when I became a parent, I started blogging about my life as a new mom. And it felt like there was this big elephant in the room. Like I was talking about, being a parent, all the struggles I was dealing with, and I wasn't talking about the one thing about myself that was really significant, and that's the fact that I have mental illness. And if you met me on the street, you would think I was maybe a little quirky, but it's really hard for me to function a lot of days. It's hard for me to leave the house. It's hard for me to do a lot of things that normal people do. And I wanted to shed light on what it's like to have anxiety because anxiety can be debilitating. So, I've had times when people have told me things that were really unhelpful, like, maybe you should stop taking antidepressants and see if you can just do it naturally, see a naturopath. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with holistic medicine. I think if you can integrate that into your life, it works for you, go for it. But don't shame people for what works. If you're taking antidepressants and they're helping you function, fuck yes. You really need to do what works for you. And, I've been on antidepressants since I was 18, and they helped me live a fulfilling life. The only time I've been off of them was when I was pregnant and breastfeeding. And that was very difficult for me. And I did it, but it really sucked. But anyway, the point is that I finally decided to come out of the closet about having mental illness when I told my story about living with panic disorder on the Huffington Post. And I just wanted to get it out. I wanted to be real. I wanted to just be myself and not have to hide this anymore. And once I did that, I started getting emails from people all over the world telling me, thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate your candor. Is there a place that I can talk about living with PTSD? Is there a place I can talk about living with depression and all these other things? And I couldn't find one on the internet, so I created stigmafighters.com. And that's where people can tell their stories about living with mental illness in 1,000-word essays. And then I met my business partner, Allie Burke, who Tiffany knows very well. And she lives with paranoid schizophrenia. We met through the mental health community online. And together we founded Stigma Fighters into a nonprofit organization. And we're working on developing chapters of the organization in universities across the country so that students have the ability to have peer support groups where they can talk about living with mental illness. But our real passion is compiling these anthologies and putting the 1,000-word essays into these books so that you can go to the bookstore, buy the Stigma Fighters anthology, pick it up, find somebody who has had an experience with depression, and you relate to it so you don't feel alone. And that's really the point, isn't it? Because everybody in here either knows someone living with mental illness or has mental illness. And mental illness doesn't have a face. It looks like you, it looks like you, it looks like you. It could be anybody, right? It's not just a homeless person, because there are many homeless people living with mental illness, but there are doctors living with mental illness. There are actors living with mental illness. There are, you don't know. You just don't know. So the point is that we need to be candid, and oftentimes when I meet somebody, I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sarah, I have panic disorder. Just like that. And that's what we need to start doing, because it's like having diabetes. It is. So anyway, I encourage you to be as weird as possible. And, you know, as my friend, that fellow blogger said to me, let your freak flag fly high, because why not?